Any question, please ask me.
No
Yes,
question, sir.
doctor, I have a question. I sent you my assignment by email and I wanted to check if you received it yesterday or not.
Email is okay, but you should upload to the system, to the Teams. You
I
didn't.
was wondering to which file should I upload it. This is why I sent it. So can you tell me please to which file do you want me to upload it?
You upload it to the system.
Yes, but to which file?
What do you mean, which file? To the
Like,
assignment. To the
okay,
assignment. To the
okay, okay.
assignments. There is where you uploaded your homework. It is there.
Okay, doctor, thank you.
I don't know if the time is valid. Is due time over or is still
No, no, not
there?
the second assignment. I mean the one that you allowed us to do last time for extra points in the slide, the last slide.
I have extended due time to 25th, isn't it?
What do you mean?
It was due time was on 20th of May, and I extended to the 25th. You requested me, I think. Is that one you are talking about?
Yes,
No,
sir.
no,
The due date is over.
I'm not talking about that one, the second assignment. No. You remember in the last class we have a slide that had two questions that we did?
You mean oh, this is another one. Okay, I will
Yeah.
check. You can send it to me via email either, no problem.
Okay.
I will check if you did it.
Okay. Thank you.
But it is uploaded to the system also, but no problem. I can control it, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, let's start to the class. Okay. We have uh, last lecture we exercised the surpluses. If you remember the uh, consumer surplus, producer surplus, and the impact to the economy with trade, tariff application, how the tax is affecting and changing the economical effects, whether it is good or not, and how many percentages should we apply the tariff for uh, becoming preferable and profiting is questioned. And today we are extending this class in this direction. We are going to analyze the international trade and the impact to the economy, where it is distributed and how it is going to affect and change the economical welfare. You are going to see in this class. As you see here, we have the international trade, so-called domestic supply, domestic demand, and then no trade, so-called the autarky position is supposed to be realized here. There is no trade. And at that level where the equilibrium realized, the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity becomes equally realized and the market is doing well. But when we are having somehow, as you know, the welfare economics and the producer gain and the producer surplus is not very easily realized because consumers' welfare dependent to the lower prices and producer gain or the surplus dependent to the higher prices. And many economical aspects suggest we have to determine the equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity in the market, such as the invisible hand realize and affects the market. And in case where we are not having any equilibrium, where we don't have any equilibrium or we are not approaching to the equilibrium and we have some problem in the market, either the supply is less or more or the demand is less or more, and some imbalance realized in the economy, then sometimes government interventions required. And this is the reason why the international trade realized, because international trade relations, as you are understanding, is done and realize between the governments. For sure, the bilateral agreements between the companies also realize, but the trade relations between the economies mostly realize with the governments. And from this point of view, we are understanding this scarcity in the economy or overproduction will be handled by means of the government's applications, and helping hand is coming from the governments. Either it is scarcity or surplus can be realized with the interventions to the market by buying or storing into the places for balancing the prices or for supporting the market structure. If it is in the scarcity or there is less production, then this stored products will be distributed to the market, and sometimes when it is overproduction, then will be directed to the other destinations for enlarging and increasing the market capacity and maintaining sustainable prices. Otherwise, this surplus will create problem to the economy and the price will fall down. And this kind of applications is realized with the support and helping hand of the governments. And as I said to you, this is not bad. This is the government interventions. And in classical economy, these interventions are not desired, but in the Keynesian economics, these are mostly preferred for balancing the economy. And Keynesian economics always suggested the demand side of the economy. If the demand is created and accelerated, then the supply is also realized. And the classical economical approach is suggested supply side is important, and we have to support and increase the supply for bringing the market to the equilibrium. And for sure, either supply side or the demand side, both parties are important in the economy, and we have to maintain the sustainable model for enlarging and increasing the economy and creating more surplus to the producers and the consumers for bringing the economy better off and the higher positions. And as you are observing here, it is suggested in equilibrium. It can be in the lower level or it can be in the higher level. But if it is in the equilibrium, you are observing the upper part of this equilibrium is supposed to be the consumer surplus, and the below part of this equilibrium, which is directly related to with prices, is the producer surplus, or the so-called the producer gain. And as I mentioned to you, if any intervention or any tax application is realized, you are probably understanding this equilibrium will be damaged or will change, and this is then a problem for the economy, because either the consumer surplus will be reduced, because when you are applying any tax where the market is in equilibrium, you are probably understanding tax is a burden to the economy. And if is the equilibrium price here, then the equilibrium price will be shifted higher level results of this tax. And when this is realized, this domestic supply become in surplus, because as you see here, you are seeing the arrow that I am moving. Then if the tax is applied here, then the price shifted to the higher level, and the consumer surplus and the preferences or demand is becoming less. And as you are observing, then consumer surplus is becoming less. But on the other side, it is expected that the producer surplus is enlarged. But as you observe here, above the equilibrium, there is a surplus, there is overproduction, and this is not good for the economy. And if any contribution or any intervention realized by means of the governments via price interventions or tax and tariff or fiscal policy applications, this equilibrium will be damaged and will be changed. And as you observe, and as I have explained to you, consumer surplus will be affected and producer surplus also positively affected and shifted higher level. But if this is realized at equilibrium level and this intervention realized at that level, then this will then cause some consumer surplus loss or consumer welfare loss, and create some producer gain to the producers. And part of this tax, if it is tax subjected or any intervention to the market, then this tax partly creates some revenue or some capital to the government that we have done in the last lecture, you remember. When we are looking to this graphic again, I said to you, price after the trade supposed to be now mostly in the world, the price is becoming less. But here, as I have suggested to you, the price shifted upper level because trade relations enlarge and increase the economy, but the price is higher. This is the reason the exportation of the goods and services always um, uh, affected from the higher prices in different destinations. If in Germany, let's say apple price is €2 and here in Cyprus is €1, then it is better to export the producer. From the producer aspect, producer prefer to export to the Germany and becomes more profits. And this is the reason these trade relations affecting and changing the economy. And when this price going up, you are observing the consumer surplus is reduced, but the producer surplus is enlarged here. But some part of this, if there is any tax, any other payments to the government, any export payments or export tax, then will be distributed to the government. And here you are observing this export, which is directed to the other destination, creating some profit and some benefits to the producers. But on the other side, you are observing the producer consumer surplus is reduced here. It was here. You see, it was in the equilibrium level, but now it is increased higher level, but the surplus, the producer surplus becomes smaller. You are seeing this arrow that I am moving. Are you able to see this arrow movements? Do you see when I am
No,
moving this?
sir.
No,
sir,
you
I'm
don't.
not seeing. No,
You
sir.
don't see this arrow
No, sir, I
movement.
also don't see.
You don't see this arrow that I am moving.
No, sir.
Sir.
Oh, the mouse movements you don't see either.
No, sir, I'm not seeing.
No, sir.
Really.
Okay. Then the upper part of the world price is the consumer, the triangle here is the consumer surplus. And as you are observing, the former price and the former consumer surplus was higher. And after the world trade, after the trade relations, the consumer surplus reduced. At least you are seeing the smaller triangle is the consumer surplus, and the larger triangle, which is the brown world price, intersect the demand and supply curves and enlarge the producer gain. You are understanding this is happens because of the exportation, and the producer gain and the profit is enlarged here. But on the other side, in the domestic market, consumer surplus is reduced. But in the other destinations, probably the consumer welfare is enlarged because of this exportation. And when we are questioning this problem, whether the trade is good or not good, it is creating problem. It is, as you are observing, causing some welfare loss for the consumers, but uh, supporting the producers on the other this direction. And then in generally, if we are looking to the total effect, probably the consumer surplus and the benefits is higher than the consumers welfare, and the producer gain is enlarged and increased. And this is then the good for the economy, because the part of this may be distributed to the government as a revenue, and this is good for the whole economical applications. as you are observing, price before the trade was in the equilibrium level, and after the trade, it is shifted to the higher level because, as I said to you, maybe in Germany or in the EU countries, the price is higher, and results of this, producer prefers to export. And when this is realized, then the welfare economics suggests consumer surplus is reduced, but producer gain or producer surplus is enlarged here because of these trade relations. And from this point of view, when we are thinking and analyzing the international trade relations, we are observing some benefits for the country because the producer profit is enlarged. Because if the price is in the equilibrium and the market is in full up with this price level, then the producer for the next season probably will not prefer to enlarge and increase their production if there was not any trade relations and any exportation possibility. And this is then the reason that the international trade is always in the subject, because some products in our countries becomes into the surplus position or becomes overproduction, and this overproduction should be export to the other destination for enlarging and increasing the economic activities. Otherwise, the surplus will, in the next term, if there is no trade and it is in the autarky in the country, no trade relations, then the overproduction has also meant the producer should reduce their production for the next season for bringing the market to the equilibrium. But as you are observing in the graphic, these trade relations remove this problem and increase and enlarge the economy to the higher level without any problem, because trade relations gives the possibility for enlarging and increasing the economy to the higher level. And this is good for the economy if it is going well and doing well. But we have to question from the other aspects either, and you will see in a few minutes. You see, this is then the areas, the export, which is realized. A is the consumer surplus, B and C and D is the producer gain, so-called the producer surplus. And if there is any transfer to the government, is also realized within this this purple area. If you draw this line, then it can be distributed to the government if there is any taxation or any export payments, but mostly is not realized. Okay, as I mentioned to you, C is the producer surplus before trade. A and B is the consumer surplus before trade, and after trade it is replaced to the A is the consumer surplus and B, C, D is the producer gain. And this is before trade, of course. And once again, when we are summarizing it on the graphic, consumer surplus before trade is A and B, and producer surplus is C, and total surplus is A plus B plus C. When we are looking to the after trade position, consumer surplus is becoming to the A, it is reduced, and producer surplus becomes to B, C, D, and total surplus or social surplus, social benefits is the A, B, C, D. And the consumer surplus is affected and reduced, and B is the reduction, and the producer surplus enlargement is the B plus D, and the total surplus is the D where it is created in this graphic and in this case. We are coming to the importing countries for analyzing. It was the exporting country, now is the importing country. Supposed to be the price is below the equilibrium now, the world price. And the domestic quantity supplied is, as you are observing, below the equilibrium. And the domestic quantity demanded is again below the equilibrium. And there is some scarcity in the economy which should import some products, because between domestic quantity supplied and domestic quantity demand, there is a deficit. There is a scarcity in the economy, and we have to enlarge the importation of this product from the other countries for increasing the economical benefits for the consumer welfare, so-called the consumer demand, and also we may balance the economy with this import, because if we don't bring any import goods from other countries, the price probably will go up because there is scarcity in the production and there is more demand than supply, and this is then not good, because if the demand is more than supply, then there is some problem in the economy, and this should be covered either extra production, enlarging the production, which is not easily realized in a short period of time, and this for the seasonal aspects should be imported for covering this scarcity or the lower production, and differences between supply and demand must be covered from the imported goods. And if it is not done, then the price will go up, and this is not good also because it's not desired. We are supposing here the price before trade is in equilibrium, but then price after trade becomes lower level because the world price is low, and this then shift the economy to the lower level and is creating some surplus to the economy, as you are observing here. The import is realized, which is shifting the economy to the lower level and becomes higher for the other destinations. And as you are observing here, ABD is the consumer surplus enlargement. Let's think this is the Germany that we are talking as before the Turkey. And the German producers become affected from this lower production, which is coming from the Turkey, and enlarging the market. And results of this consumer surplus is enlarged here, but the producer gain or producer surplus is reduced to C. And this is how it is affecting the international trade relations. But this is for the one product like this, and in the other products, probably the German marketers and German producers become surplus position and then exporting to the Turkey or to the other destinations, and they will then enjoy to enlarge and increase their market. And this is how it is realized in the international market. There are several products, several markets, several products, producers and consumers, and this is then affecting and changing the surplus between producer and consumer. And if it is tax subjected, then the government is also having some role and getting some revenue from these trade relations. Therefore, trade and international trade is good for the economy. It is bringing the all parties better off. As you are observing here, results of this import, the consumer surplus become larger and producer surplus reduced before trade. But after trade, it is the opposite realized. And as you are observing here, the consumer surplus become enlarged, ABD, and the producer surplus reduced to C. And this is results of this importation from the other countries. Let's say in the former graphic that we export is the Turkey, and this is then the Germany's export and import relations, showing the Germany producers suffering or reducing their welfare, but the consumer enjoying these trade relations because it is bringing the market to the lower because of the price decrease and enlarging the market and products capacity in the market. And this is then good for the German consumers, but probably not good for the producers in this case. And as a result, for the importing country, consumer surplus before trade was A, and producer surplus, it was B plus C, and total surplus is A plus B plus C. But after trade, as you are observing, the consumer surplus, results of this importation, is enlarged and increased to A plus B plus D, and producer surplus is reduced to C, and total surplus is A plus B plus C plus D. Violet, do you have any question? No, probably.
No, sir. No.
Because there was an indication. Consumer surplus B plus D is change results of this importation. Producer surplus now reduced because of these trade relations and becomes minus B. And total surplus, as you are observing, is minus D because of this importation. Because importation is somehow negatively affecting the economy because you are enlarging the market but affecting the producer gain, and probably the government surplus is also, and the revenues is also affected. And this is then the reason the import is always negatively affecting the economy and bringing to the negative. This is the reason why the surplus and deficit is dependent to this net export. If the net export is positive, this means import is less than export, and if it is negative, import is more than export, and this is then causing some resource transfer from other countries to our economies as a product and as a capital. We are having problem because we have to pay for this enlargement of the product or the market, some capital to the other countries, and this transfer, capital transfer or monetary transfer to the other destinations or other countries is creating problem and causing some deficit problem to the economy. And as I said to you, if the import is higher than export, it is negatively affecting the economy as a monetary value, and the current account deficit is affected especially from the net export and some other transactions, some other monetary values, other capital transfers, but mostly from the export and import. And if this export is higher than import, then there will be a surplus and positive amount in capital in current account, and this is good for the economy. This is the reason why we are indicating here the negative surplus for the producers and some little surplus realized for the total economy in the case. When we are bringing the market to the equilibrium, but considering now the tax and tariff effects, then we have the government especially, which is subjected in the former graphics also, but not illustrated. Then we will able to understand the impact of the trade relations to the economy. As you are observing, we are here in the equilibrium, where the autarky realized, where the no trade relations realized. We are in the domestic market, and when it is so, then this is problem for the economy, because we are here having the world price without tariff is very, very low. But when the tariff is subjected, then this tariff, as you are understanding, is a burden to the economy, and it is bringing the market to the higher level, because the price will be shifted to the higher position, because tariff is the price increase in the economy, and it is a burden to the economy, because tariff tax measures or tariff trade measures is collected by the government, and this is not given to the benefit as a benefit to the producers and neither to the consumers, and it is creating problem to the producers because this is a burden for them, because the price going up and this collected tax or tariff is distributed to the government. And on the other side, this higher prices reducing the welfare of the consumers, because when you are looking to this triangle, the demand curve created triangle is increasing results of the prices to the upper level and reducing the consumer welfare. Tariff shifted the price to the red line, as you are observing. Then the price now is higher than the world price without tariff. And as you are observing here, now this Q1 to Q2 is supposed to be reduced and restricted the production in the domestic market, and the demand is also reduced because of these higher prices. And as you see, the tariff now bringing a little bit larger smaller importation to the economy, because before tariff, the importation was between Q1 and Q1D and Q1S, so-called supply 1 and demand 1. And after the tariff trade application, it is becoming to the Q supply 2 or supply 2 and demand 2. There is here QS2 and QD2. QS2 means supply in the second position, moving from the QS1 to QS2, and the demand is moving from D1 to QD2. This means demand is reduced here from QD1 to QD2, and the supply is enlarged from Q1S or QS1 to QS2, and this is then the somehow product enlargement or the domestic production enlargement results of this tariff, because tariff trade measure is realized for restricting this, as you observe, this importation from the other nations. This imported goods, which is expected before tariff or without tariff, was very big, very large between QS1 and QD1. And as you are observing, after the tariff trade application, it is bringing the market to the QS2 to QD2, where the QS1 moves to QS2, and the domestic production has meant is enlarged with this much amount. But on the other side, domestic production is reduced from QD1 to QD2, and results of this tariff, the domestic producer enjoy the market enlargement, but the producer gain in enlarge and increase, but the consumer welfare reduce here. As you are observing, before the tariff, the horizontal world price, which is representing the higher consumer triangle, is now becoming smaller, because tariff shifted the consumer, the demand curve, as you are observing, is going up and becomes smaller triangle, the right angle triangle I am talking about, with the domestic demand curve, where it is realized having a shape with the price and the quantity. This right angle triangle is becoming smaller after the tariff, and this is causing some tariff reduction, and the consumer welfare, as you are observing, is shifted from the price without tariff, where it is at the QS1, now is going to be enlarged to the QS2, and the producer gain is shifted to the inverse right angled curve, where the domestic supply curve creates this inverse right angled with the tariff application is enlarged and shift the producer gain to the higher level. I hope you are understanding these figures and the explanation, because I am trying to explain as much as possible comprehensive for letting you to understand this impact of the tariff to the economy.
Actually, sir.
Tell me.
Yes, sir. Can you please explain this part again? Effect of a tariff. I didn't understand. Please.
Oh, okay. As I said to you, world price is the blue horizontal line. You are observing this, okay? This horizontal line is world price. You are seeing this. And when the world price without tariff realize, there is a sufficient import possibility from the other destinations, because this is the domestic market here, okay? And we are supposing without tariff or without trade, the domestic market having problem, because production is at QS1 level and the consumption is at QD1 level, which is very high, and there is a considerable amount and this differences between demanded products, demand of this steel, and production is very low. As you are observing, it is QS1 level, which is very, very small steel production realized in the domestic market. And if we, as a government, decide to let the import of the steel from the other destinations, the importable capacity from the other countries is between QS1 and QD1. This is the importation, as it is indicated, imports without tariff. There is a considerable, huge amount of tariff, import without tariff, which is not acceptable, because this will then damage our economy, because our producers having very small amount of production. But on the other side, when we are enlarging and increasing the market with the imported goods, then the domestic producers probably will not maintain their production and will be disappeared in the economy. Therefore, government decide to put some tariff to the economy for preventing the domestic market. This shift the prices from price without tariff to price with tariff to the higher level. As you are observing, this brown horizontal line is the price, new price of the steel production and the importation probably with tariff. Then this price going up, and when this price shifted higher level for not letting the all importers to come to our country, then the price in the domestic market, which increase higher level, gives spaces to the domestic market or the producers to enlarge their production from QS1 to QS2. Okay? And on the other side, the domestic producers, results of these higher prices, become unhappy, and this production, which is increased in the market with the domestic producers, causing some demand reduction, is represented on the QD1 shifted to the QD2, because the higher prices on the steel production or the products is reducing the consumer demand. Okay, up to here, you are understanding?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now we are questioning the distribution of this tariff. The distribution now causing some welfare loss for the consumer, which is shifted from world price parallel horizontal line to the tariff line, and the right angle triangle, the demand, domestic demand, which is represented, having a right angled triangle shifted to the upper level. And this tariff line, where the brown line is parallel to the x-axis to the quantity of steel production, is shifting the demand to the lower level, because consumer welfare is reduced. Price is higher, is going higher, but the consumer demand, because as I said to you, the right angle domestic demand triangle represents the welfare, consumer welfare, and when the price going up, this tariff is causing some welfare loss for the consumers, which is shifted to the upper, but causing some welfare loss for the, the price going up, but the welfare, consumer welfare is reduced, because as I said to you, this domestic demand, which having a right angled triangle with this X and Y, is going lower and smaller position, and this is then the welfare loss, which is realized between the price with tariff and price without tariff. And when we are looking to the domestic supply, this supply curve is now creating an inverse right angle triangle with the prices of the steel, and this price, which is going up to the price with tariff level, when it is at price without tariff, it was the production capacity at QS1, and now it is going to the QS2, and this is then the domestic production increase results of this price. You have understood?
Yes, sir.
Then shifting the producer gain and producer surplus from this smallest right angled, inverse right angled triangle, which is creating a right angled triangle between the domestic supply and price vertical line, is going larger, which is a more, let's say, surplus for the producer. Results of this price without tariff line is shifting the producer surplus higher level. But as you are observing, this surplus is now causing problem to the consumer, but enlarging the producer welfare. And it is acceptable because, as I said to you, before tariff and before this application of the international trade and tariff, the producer gain was very, very small, and producer production and capacity is very small at QS1. And results of this tariff, which is applied to the importers, to the foreigners, which they are directing their production to our economy, to our markets, is causing some higher prices and causing some welfare increase to the producer. And this producer gain shifted to the higher level, to the QS1, to the QS2, and this higher inverse right angle triangle, creating more economical, let's say, capacity to the producers. And as a distribution of the welfare, when we are questioning this, the distribution will be producer surplus, illustrated now. Producer surplus is now given before tariff, is very small, as you are observing, inverse right angle. And the producer consumer surplus is very huge, because the world price is very low and the consumer profit and the welfare is very high. But the government apply now the tax, shift this tariff to the higher level. And as you are observing, this is then the import amount between QS2 and QD2. And now the consumer surplus is reduced to 8B areas, and the producer surplus shifted to the GC, from G to GC. And the government contribution, let's see if it is illustrated here. Yes, is the E. The government contribution, or the collection of this capital, results of this tariff, is the collected capital from the foreigners, so-called the tax revenue for the government. And these small triangles at the corners, these small triangles you are observing beside both sides of this rectangular E area, the small triangles are the debt weight, which is disappeared from the economy. And as these purple areas, D and F is the debt weight of the economy, so-called the loss of the economy. Nobody collect this. But as I said to you, A and B is the consumer surplus, G and C is the producer gain, results of tariff, and E is the government collection. I hope you understand this expression and illustration. And D and F is the debt weight loss, which is not going to the anybody. We don't know, it's disappeared somewhere else. And as a table, when we are illustrating this, the consumer surplus is A, B, C, D, E, F before trade, before tariff. And producer surplus is the G, and the government revenue is none, no collection realized because there is no tariff before trade. And total surplus is A plus B plus C plus D plus E plus F plus and G plus is the total surplus. And after tariff, we have the consumer surplus, as you are observing, some reduction. The A and B is the surplus, and C, D, E, F is the disappeared area from the consumer welfare. And the producer gain, or the surplus, is G plus C plus G, and the surplus enlargement is the C here. And the government revenue is not collected, is nothing before trade, but after trade is the area E, and the surplus for the government is E again, and total surplus A plus B plus C plus D plus E plus F plus G is the before trade realized economical effects, and after tariff is A plus B plus C plus E plus G is the tariff which is collected by consumer, producer, and government, and D and F here is disappeared from the economy. As you are observing from this table, probably you are asking why we are trading here, because there are some loose disappeared from the economy, but the distribution of the capital is a little bit more fairly realized, because before tariff and before trade, there was a huge amount of consumer surplus with lower tariff and lower, not tariff, lower prices. And after tariff and after trade, the producer gain enlarged, which it must be enlarged, because as a government and as a domestic producer and as a domestic people, we are wishing to enlarge our economies for reducing our dependency, because here this surplus which is represented on the consumers let's say areas are mostly coming from the foreigners, because of this huge amount of surplus not able to realize, because there are huge amount of scarcity in the economy, as I have indicated to you, between QS2, QS1 and QD1. The huge amount of the production capacity is missing in the economy, and we have to enlarge our domestic production for becoming more independent. Otherwise, we are becoming dependent. And results of this tariff, which is applied, some revenue is collected by the government as a tax revenue, as a collected tariff revenue, and some production increase realized for the producers for maintaining our production and for enlarging our economies to the better position, better off. And the consumer surplus is also becoming a reasonable position, which is acceptable now, because before the trade, there was huge amount of consumer surplus, but there is a scarcity in the economy. This is not able to covered by the producer. As you are observing, the total amount of the production before trade, it was G, and the total amount of the consumer surplus is A, B, C, D, E, F, which is not able to cover, because production is very small and the rest of the surplus need is not known what is going to be. You can increase the production for covering this need. Therefore, there should be some trade relations for covering this need in the economy, because consumer demand is very huge, but the producer capacity was very small at G level. And results of this tariff, it is increased to G plus G, and the tariff, after the tariff, consumer surplus is becoming A, B, and then the government also collects some capital at A rectangular area, which is acceptable distribution. When we are looking to the, yes, please.
Sir, I have one question. Sir, why do we have a negative sign in consumer surplus and total surplus? Can you explain me this? A negative sign. Yes, sir.
Changes,
Yes, sir.
you mean?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Because when you look to the graphic here, you see there is CDEF change. The consumer surplus was A, B, C, D, E, F, isn't it? But
Yes,
the price going up, and this surplus, the consumer surplus, is reduced. Before tariff and trade, it was A, B, C, D, E, F. But after tariff, which is applied, and after the trade relations, as I said to you, before trade, you see there is a huge amount of surplus for the consumers, which is A, B, C, D, E, F. But when you are looking to the production, it is only G point. It is only in the G area, and only at the price without tariff, and only the amount of the production which is represented with the QS1. And as you see, this is very small amount of production. And when you look to the consumption or the consumer demand is very huge. It is A, B, C, D, E, F, which is located at QD1 point, and this is the huge amount of the scarcity in the economy. There is a scarcity in the economy because production is very, very small, but the demand is very high. As you see, this imports without tariff area has also meant this is the scarcity in the economy because demand is very huge, but the production is very small at QS1 level and the demand is QD1 level. And after the tariff, which is shifting the economy to the higher level, you are observing the production becomes enlarged to the QS2 level and becomes to the price with tariff level, and the producer supplies increased from G plus C, where the C is enlarged results of tariff, because tariff shifting the price to the higher level, and when the price is going up, this has also meant a profit increase for the domestic producers, because higher prices has also meant collection of the profit, and this higher profit has also give the reason to the producers for enlarging their production, because at that price level where the tariff without price without tariff level realized production, the producer cannot maintain their production with this price level. But when the price going up results of this tariff, as I said to you, is increasing the domestic market price and has also given some spaces to the producer to increase their production, and results of this space, which is increase the production from QS1 to QS2, bringing the market to the better position for the producers. But when we look to the other side, results of this tariff, this is causing some welfare loss, and the welfare loss is the CDEF for the consumer. And when this is negative, this means they are going to be subtracted from the consumer surplus. This is going to reduce the consumer surplus, because as I said to you, as much as you are increasing the price, you see this consumer demand or domestic demand curve is going up, and this demand capacity is decreasing. As I said to you, between price and quantity, there is inverse relationship, and when the price going up and up, the welfare loss is reduced for the consumers, and here the price went up, and you see this CDEF is disappeared from the consumer welfare, and results of this reduction from the consumer welfare, we are indicating this as negative. I hope you understand now. And the D and F
Yes,
is
sir.
of course not going to the anybody, E going to the government, as I said to you, and C going to the producer surplus. Therefore, this redistribution of the welfare is contributing to increase the producer gain on producer surplus from G to G plus C. And for the government, there will be tax revenue is represented with the area E, and the D and C, as I said to you, is the deadweight loss, is somewhere else the producer lose, and the consumer lose is somewhere else disappeared, and we don't know where it is going. And this all C, D, E, F is reduced and subtract from the consumer welfare, because as I said to you, as much as you go up, the consumer welfare become negative, reduced, because price increase, as we are all consumer, is not making us happy. When you go to the shop, you enjoy to shop where the price is discounted, or where something is in sale, or where something is seasonal discount realized. You observe at least many people in the market, they are consuming and buying too many things because it is cheaper. And this is then the reason, because when something is cheap, the consumer welfare is increased and enlarged, is better off. Okay. Okay, then the import quota is represented here. The import quota is something like tariff, but now you are restricting the amount of the quantity imported from the other countries. You don't want to put any tariff, because tariff trade measure is always a problem for the international trade, because the WTO, the World Trade Organization, always complaining about these tariff trade measures, because these tariff measures especially applied for the agricultural products, and most of the developing nations and the raw materials, most of the developing or emerging economies dependent to the agricultural and the raw material exportation, because for example, crude oil is also exported from the developed nations, extracted from the companies in developed nations, and they are distributing to the welfare nations. Therefore, this kind of tariff applications always creating problem to the undeveloped or developing nations or so-called emerging economies, and this is not good for the economy, because this is negatively affecting the trade relations. Because when you are looking to the EU regulations and the global market regulations, the tariff measures almost removed for the industrial products, and the trade measures for the agricultural products, for the raw materials, is subjected, is maintained. And this is the reason why this WTO, World Trade Organization, created or founded in 1993, is against these tariff measures. And when this tariff is applied, it is better to replace with the other kind of applications, such as direct payments or such import restrictions or some other applications for the countries for maintaining free but fair trade. I hope you are understanding what I mean, because free trade doesn't mean always fair trade. You have to create a fair space for the international trade. Otherwise, some countries and some parties are suffering and some others become better off. And this is not good for the international trade. As you are observing here, the equilibrium without trade is realized here. And the world price is now, you are observing at this dark brown horizontal line. And then import is expected without quota is, as I represented in the former graphics, is very huge. The QS1 and QD1 is the import amount without tariff and without restriction. And now we are supposing we are having the quota for the domestic importation, then this is then reducing the amount domestic supply plus import quota, shifting the economy to the, as you are observing here, almost to the equilibrium position. But the market which is represented here is a little bit smaller. The import with quota is now reduced. And as you are observing, this is good to know, this price without quota is represented with the dark brown, and the price with quota is represented with the light brown, and which is bringing the production capacity for the producer again to the higher level. But the restriction, this quota, the numbers, the quantity restriction for the importation, instead of paying some tax, is reducing the amount of the import, and this reduction is then bringing the imported goods to the lower level. As you are observing, QS2 and QD2 is now the import with quota, which is limited quantity is allowed to the international market or to the domestic market. Once again, we are having here the import quota without quota, without application, any restriction. And Isolandian price with quota is represented as higher level, but now this is then the restriction, which means you are suggesting to put the price level somewhere else, but you don't put the price increase with the tariff or any other instrument which is shifting the prices to higher level, but you are putting some quantity restriction, and this is then the import quota or restriction to the economy, and this restriction reducing the imported amount and bringing the market to the higher level for the producers in the domestic market, and reduce the consumption capacity also. And the imported quota with this restriction is then reasonable, smaller than the former one, where the import without quota is realized. as you are observing, either tariff or quota is the similar affecting and changing the economy. But the problem here, government is not collecting any revenue, but in the tariff, government is also collecting some capital, but the import quota is only restricting the importation and contributing to the domestic producer to enlarge their production capacity. Therefore, it is somehow better for the importers. This is not increasing the prices, just only limiting the quantity, which is directed to the market, to the domestic market. And as you are observing, the import quota is restricting the demand, or so-called the consumer surplus, to A and B area, and the producer surplus is enlarged again from the small triangle to the larger, where the C area is also added. And D is again here is the dead weight, and E is not collected by anybody, and the other F is also dead weight. If you have any question, you ask me. If not, then I'm shifting the last one. Then because I have one other chapter. Yes, please.
Sir, can you explain this again?
This distribution.
Yes, sir.
As I said to you, import quota is similar to the tariff. As you are observing, it is shifting the prices to the higher level because you are limiting the production capacity with the imported goods. And this production, which is not allowed from the foreigners to come to the country to enlarge and increase, is creating some space to the producers for enlarging their production to the higher level, because the quota indirectly shifting the prices to the higher level, because there is a limited amount, and this limited amount reducing the consumption and the consumer demand, probably realized at that higher price level, and this higher price is shifting the production from QS1 to the QS2, and this domestic production is supposed to be enlarged now. And as you are observing, the A and B area is the reduction, so is the amount of the consumer surplus, and it is reduced because before the quota it was A, B, C, D, E, F areas, and the E dash and E double dash all together. And when you are seeing this is reduced to A and B after this quota realized, and the C and G is the producer gain, where the C is the enlargement of the consumption production results of this quota, and D and F are the dead weights. And as I said to you, E and the E double dash is not going to the anybody, because government is not collecting any import let's say revenue, because quota is only applied to the restriction purposes, and restricting the quantity which is directed to the market. And this is then the reason why the consumer surplus reduced to AB. Before it was A, B, C, D, E dash, E double dash, N. If, and before quota, it was the producer gain at G area, and after the quota, it is enlarged to G and C. Let's look up on the graphic. The quota consumer surplus A, B, C, D, E dash, E double dash, and if is the amount of the surplus for the consumer, for the demander, and producer surplus is the G, was the G, let's say, and license holder surplus, or the license holder surplus, is nothing because nobody collecting this, and the total surplus is A plus B plus C plus D plus E dash, E double dash plus F plus G. And the after quota, as you are observing, it is reduced to A, B to the consumer surplus, for the producer surplus C plus G, And for the total surplus, it is A plus B plus C plus E dash plus and E double dash plus G, the total surplus. Because here, as I said to you, if there is any license holder who is going to direct to this market with this quota agreement, then they have the market preferences and they collected this commission. And this is then the consumer surplus reduction is supposed to be minus C plus D plus E dash plus E double dash plus F is the consumer surplus reduction, and C is the producer surplus. And as I said to you, if this contract realized between any commissioner, the license holder is collecting this E and F dash and double dash E double dash areas, and the total surplus, the debt weight is disappeared for the consumer lose and the producer lose subjected is the D plus F areas. This was the import quotas. Now I am going to the second presentation. If you have time, then let me go to this presentation. If you don't, then I don't know how we're gonna do. I will start at least, and then next lecture we will do it, okay? Because I have to finish some parts. Let me present the other one also. We are going to the producer side because we still exercise the mostly the consumption and the consumer utility, consumer welfare. Let's go to the producer side to see a little bit. I have to inform you chapter. Let me look. Chapter 10, 11, 12 is excluded from the exam, okay? Chapter 10, 11, and 12 is excluded. Is that clear? Is it clear?
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Manipudi.
Huh?
Yes, sir, no problem.
Okay, let's go. We have then next lecture 13. If we can go to the 14 and 15. We have only 1 week or 2 weeks? I think 1 week, isn't it?
I think 1 week.
Okay, then I will try to do my best. Let's do it. Because we had some holidays and we didn't finish all chapters. Okay. We have now the firm's behavior and the organization of the industry. So we are going to the producer side. We are going to the production cost. We are going to estimate the cost of the production now. The 13th chapter, the cost of the production. We are analyzing.
Doctor, this is chapter 10 to 30 or 9 to 30?
Excluded.
Yeah.
It is
9, 10 to 30.
10, 11, and 12.
Yes, 10, 11, and 12. Yes, 10, 11, and 12. Yes. 10,
Okay.
11, and 12. Yes, Abdul Karim. Ghazal. Thank you. Okay. You have here the accountant seeing the firm as the explicit cost in the accounting profit only, and the economist seeing the explicit cost, the implicit cost, and the economic profit. Why it is so? We are analyzing a little bit. As you see, the implicit and explicit costs are the costs that we are concentrating for the opportunity cost, and the explicit costs are out-of-pocket costs for a firm. For example, payments for wages, salaries, rent, and materials. And implicit costs are the opportunity cost of resources already owned by the firm and used in business. For example, expanding a factory onto the land already owned. The existing structure of the firm's capacity is the implicit cost, which is considered in the opportunity cost. Then the explicit cost, as I said to you, the temporarily given wages, salaries, rents, and other materials regularly distributed to this person on people. And the implicit costs are the let's say the structure of the firm. Production function and total cost is supposed to be given here for the pizza factory. The number of workers is given here 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the output quantity of pizza is supposed to be when 0 person is employed is 0, of course, and for 1 person produce 50 pizza per day supposed to be. A marginal product of labor is supposed to be delta Q over delta L. Then here is then going to be subtracted this quantity produced delta Q 50 minus 0 divided to the 1 minus 0, because delta L is then the let's say the differentiation of the workers, so-called the extra contribution of the workers to the production operation process is the 1. Then 50 over 1 is 50. Then the second one is again 90 minus 50. The pizza amount is delta Q for the second, and the difference is again the number of workers always is 1 and 1 is increased and enlarged, and then the delta Q over delta is over here 40, and for the next one 120 minus 90 is 30, then divided again 1 is 30, 140 minus 20 is again 20, and is going to be divided to 1 and is again is 20, and 150 minus 140 is going to be 10. Then this will be divided to 1 because the person number of workers employed is 1. Then is going to be 10. As you are observing, the marginal products and the contribution to the last unit to the total production is decreasing. Amount of increase is realized because 50 plus 40 is 90 for the second, and 90 plus 30 is 120. As you are observing, it is increasing the amount of the production, but the contribution of the employee is realized because the productivity is decreasing here. Therefore, delta Q over delta L is the productivity, and the marginal productivity of each is given here is decreasing. Amount of increase is realized. As you are observing, not is 50, 50, 50. It goes to 50 and then 40 and then 30 and then 20 and then 10 is decreasing. And the cost of the factory is supposed to be fixed cost is 30 euro, and the cost of workers, which is the variable cost, supposed to be 10, 20, 30 is going to be increased because each worker cost per hour supposed to be $10 or 10 euro, and the total cost of inputs, cost of factory plus cost of workers together is then we are adding this last two, 30, 30 plus 10 is 40, 30 plus 20 is 50, 30 plus 30 is 60. Therefore, we are seeing here the simplest calculation of these factories cost, and the benefits will be analyzed in the following chapter. The production function represented here, as you are observing the number of workers, as you observe in the given example, as much as you are increasing the number of workers, unfortunately, the amount of pizza is decreasing because, as I said to you, if the number of workers increase and the number of pizza similarly enlarge and increase, it should be 50 plus 50, 150 plus 50, 100 is 150, 150 plus 50, then 200. But as you are observing, it is only increased to 50, 40, 30. Therefore, it is decreasing amount of increase realized. And that's the reason that the U-shape production function is represented, because number of workers is unique, but the quantity of output results of this productivity is decreasing amount of increase realized. And as you see, every worker's contribution is decreasing because first worker's contribution is 50, second worker contributions is 40, is beginning to the 90, and the third worker's contribution to the 30, and this brings the 90 to 120, and the fourth worker's contribution to the 120 to 140 is only 20 units increase, is decreasing amount of increase realized, and the fourth to fifth, then it is going to be only 10 unit of PISA is contributed, and this is then, as you are observing, is decreasing amount of increase realized, and then you are reaching to the optimal position or so-called the maximum position, and after then this maximum point, then you are bringing the market to the negative position, and this is not good. It is better to have at least the maximum level of the production operation process. Otherwise, if you are insisting to enlarge and increase your capacity and your economy and your business, you will exercise problem and you bankrupt soon, or you need some bailout from the other, let's say, banking sector, because your money will be disappeared in short period of time. Therefore, you have to analyze regularly your business profile and business profitability, and then enlarge your economy and your business. Otherwise, you are exercising problem. We have mentioned this. You understand, I think.
Sir, can you explain this? Sir, I'm not understanding.
This
Sorry.
one, this graphic.
Sir, yes, sir. This table and the graph as well.
Okay. As I said, the number of workers here is only increasing unique numbers. One person each time is enlarged this pizza salon, isn't it? One person's production per day was 50 unit. When the second person employed, then it is going to be 90 unit, not 100. This means there is 10 unit or 10 piece of pizza is disappeared from the production. And the third worker's contribution is becoming not 150, but is 120. This means the contribution of the third workers is only 30 pizza. The second one, 40, third one, 30. The fourth one is then going to be 140, but unfortunately its contribution only 20, and the fifth one is only 150, then this then contribution only 10 pizza per day. The fifth person is very costly. This means if you employ only 4 or only 3, probably your economical position and the profit rate is better. But if you are insisting to employ more people and enlarge your pizza salon, you see this doesn't make sense. This is only increasing your cost and reducing your profit. Therefore, you have to analyze this regularly and then determine. And the cost of this small factory or manufacturing sector is fixed cost is only $30 for each. Then, as you are observing, $30 is going when you are increasing and enlarging this workers amount, it is stay intact. And the cost of workers, every worker you employ per hours, let's say, is $10 or 10 euro is here, and then you go to 20, 30, 40 because you are enlarging the person, and the wages and the per hour paid probably is going to enlarge, and the total cost of this input is then the cost of fixed cost, and the variable cost is included. Here fixed cost is $30 as you see, and the variable cost is the workers. 30 plus 0 is 30, and the 30 plus 10 is 40, and then 30 plus 20 is 50, 30 plus 30 is 60. It goes like this, and the marginal cost, as I said to you, is delta Q over delta L, and delta Q is the quantity of production, which is the former, last product will be subtracted from the former and divided to the number of workers differences, or so-called the last workers will be subtracted from the formers. Then you will have the delta Q, or so-called the delta L, which is the labor productivity is given to you with this delta Q over delta L. And here you are having the marginal product of the labor for each person you are adding to the factory is going to be 50 minus 0 dividing to the 1 minus 0. I mean delta Q over delta L. Delta Q is the output quantity of pizza, and delta L is the number of workers. Therefore, Q2 minus Q1 will be divided to the L2 minus L1, which is the labor or the workers. Then this will then give you 50 minus 0 will be divided to the 1 minus 0. Then is going to be 1. Then 50 divided to 1 is going to 50. When you go to the next one is going to be 90 minus 50 is 40. Then this will be subtracted from the workers amount, which is again 2 minus 1 is 1. One worker is again added to the total. Then the marginal product contribution of this labor is 40 because you are dividing 90 minus 50 is 40 divided to the 1 is going to give you the 40. The marginal product is again 40. For the third one is then 120 minus 90 will be subtracted to the 3 minus 2. When you are subtracting 120 minus 90 is 30, and when you're subtracting the labor, 3 minus 2 is 1, then therefore 30 quantity of products which is produced from the third employee will be divided to the last contributor, so-called the workers, is the 1 again. Then this will give you the marginal products of this labor, again 30, and then the last, before the last is 140 minus 120 is subtracted from the 1 again, then this will then 20 divided to 1 is going to be 20, and then 150 minus 40, 140 is going to be 10. Then this will be then divided to the 5 minus 4 is going to be 1. Then this will then gives you 10 minus 10 divided to 1. This will then gives you the marginal product for this labor, for the fifth labor, is 10 unit of pizza is going to be added to this total production, which is very low, and the marginal product is not very high considering to the first or to the second one. You have understood? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is then the total cost curve. As you are observing, we have here the variable cost and the fixed cost together. I will represent now all together in the following graphic. You will see better. Therefore, I'm going to, faster. We have here the total cost. Total cost is the fixed cost plus variable cost. As you see here is 3 euro, 3 euro 30, 3 euro 80, 4 euro 50 is going to add the variable and fixed together. And the quantity of lemonade glass per hour is supposed to be given here. And the average fixed cost is then delta Q, Q over P. This is the total cost. You're going to divide it. You have question? Okay. Then the average variable cost, the fixed cost, as I said to you, is fixed. Then 333. Then you're going to divide this to the units. Then you're going to get this. Then because 1 unit is added and the fixed cost is always 3 euro, then you're gonna get it for the average fixed cost 3 euro. You're gonna divide this 2 and it's going to be 1 euro, 1.50 euro, and 3 going to be divided to 3 is going to be 1 euro, and the fourth is going to be 3 divided to 4 is going to be 0.5075, and 3 euro going to be divided to the 5 is going to be 0.6. 6 times 5 is 3 euro. You are understanding? Then the variable cost is similarly realized as with the fixed variable cost. Variable cost divided to the lemonade amount, and then average total cost is similarly realized as it is given here. You are going to delta Q over delta P, then giving you the marginal cost and average total cost, then P over Q is supposed to be then giving you the variable total cost in this given graphic. It is illustrated here also on the graphic. Let's see here. The total cost is 3 euro. The marginal cost is 0.3, as I have done in the former graphic. I don't want to repeat it again. The total cost is the margin, fixed cost, and the variable cost is included, and the marginal cost is here, is added again, as I have done here, delta Q over delta L or delta Q or delta K, which is here delta L is represented and is divided and given to you the marginal cost as we have done in the former graphic, you are going to divide it to the 3.30 minus 3 euro will be 0.3 divided to the 1. This is realized as it is given 3.80 minus 3.30 subtracted each other divided to 1 again is 0.50. It goes like this. I hope you are understanding as it is done in the former graphic that we have explained several times. Is it clear? I think I don't need to repeat it several times. If you don't understand, I can do the fourth one also. 5.40 minus 4.50 is then giving you 0.90 divided to the 4 minus 3 is 1 again. This is unique contribution to the H quantity. Then is going to be 0.90. Then the fifth one is 6.50 minus 5.40 is going to 1.10 is divided to the 4 minus 5 minus 4 is again 1. Then this will then gives you then 1.1. Okay. And then this is then the total cost curve where the variable cost, fixed cost, variable cost represented here. I don't want to explain because there is nothing to explain here. I will go to the explanation because just only putting the numbers and showing the graphic here, the fixed and total cost together, fixed and variable cost together. This is then, listen, this is then the average total cost. This is then the average fixed cost. And this is then marginal cost where it is intersecting. And this is then the average variable cost. As you are observing here, marginal cost intersect the average total cost from the minimum points. And the average fixed cost is also intersected by the average variable cost in the minimum points. As you are observing, this is then the representation of the graphics where the average fixed cost, average variable cost collection is representing the or giving the average total cost, and delta Q over delta L, or what we are using here, will give you the marginal cost. And as I mentioned to you, marginal cost intersect the average total cost from the minimum points that we are going to exercise in the few minutes. And the next lecture also, I will give you more comprehensive explanation on these issues. And then here we are having the marginal cost. Again, then we have here the average total cost. Average total cost intersect the marginal cost. And marginal cost intersect average total cost to the minimum points, as I said to you. This should be known. And then we have here then the simplest example again, Big Bob's cost curve. The total cost is the fixed cost plus variable cost is given. Fixed cost and variable cost is 2 plus 0 is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. 2 plus 1.80, 3.80. 2 plus 2.40 is 440. It goes like this. And the average fixed cost is the fixed cost divided to the Q, as I mentioned to you. Then you're going to divide this average fixed cost to the Q is only 1. Therefore, always you are getting the same again here. But you see it is started from the second. Is 2, 1, 0.67. As you see, it goes and reduced because fixed cost divided to the Q, and Q is going to be unitly 1 and 1. It's going up and up, and it's then becoming smaller and smaller. Fixed cost divided to the Q, you see here. And then average variable cost is variable cost divided now the Q. The variable cost is here 1, 1.80, 2.40. It goes like this. And then you're going to divide this again, then Q. And this is then 1.80 divided to 2 is 90. 2.40 divided to 3 is 0.70. It goes like this. You're going to make it like this. It is a little bit smaller, but for example, I don't follow which number is what because it is a little bit mixed, but let's say the 14 is, or let's say 13 is average variable cost is 13, oh sorry, variable cost is 13.6, and this is going to be divided to the 13, then this will then gives you some 1.0.5 because you are dividing it. And then this, the last one is 0.14 because you are going to divide 15.80 to the 14, and this will then give you 1.13. I hope you understand. This is not difficult because the formula is given also. An average total cost is then total cost, variable cost plus fixed cost is going to be added together and divided to the Q. And marginal cost, delta total cost divided to the delta Q. We have done this. Maybe the more a little bit difficult for you, the marginal cost, and I have explained to you. You're gonna subtract each other because delta total cost is question here. Delta total cost is given here 3.80. Then you're gonna subtract, for example, for the first one, 3 minus 2 is 1, and 1 is going to be divided to the 1 because quantity is here 1 minus 1. Then it's going to give you 1 like this. Then you are doing all the estimations in this application. And if you have any question, you ask me because I'm going to move to the next slides. If you don't, huh?
Excuse me, sir. Can you explain me average fixed cost, variable, total cost, and marginal cost?
It is given here. Look, the formula is given. Total cost is fixed cost plus variable cost. It is written on the line, fixed cost, variable cost. You see the formulas? For the first line, total cost is represented with the fixed cost plus variable cost. You're gonna add the fixed cost with the variable cost. 2 plus 0 is 0. 2 plus 1 is 3 euro. Okay. Average fixed cost, then fixed cost divided to the Q. Here is going to be 2 euro. Fixed cost is 2, and you're gonna divide it to the 1 is 2. And then the second one is 2 again, but you're gonna divide it to the 3, sorry, it's going to be 6.70 something. And then you're gonna divide it to 2 again for the 4 is going to be 0.50. You got it? Average fixed cost. Fixed cost is 2 euro all, but you're gonna divide to the quantity produced. For 4 units, you're gonna divide 2 euro to 4. Fixed cost for 5th, you're gonna divide 2 euro to the 5 to 6. You're gonna divide the fixed cost to the 6. You understand? And you're gonna get these numbers.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then variable cost similarly done as I have explained to you for the fixed cost, but variable cost, as you are observing, is different. But now you are having here the variable cost is let's say the first one is 1 euro. You're gonna divide 1 is 1. Then the second one is 1.80. You're gonna divide it 2, and it's going to be 90. And then it's going to be 2.40. You're gonna divide to 3. It's going to be 8. 8 times 3 is 24, isn't it? It's going like this. Is that clear?
Yes, sir. I got it. Yes, sir.
And
Yes,
then
I got it.
average total cost, you're gonna collect the total cost, which means fixed cost plus variable cost together. You're gonna add 2 plus 0. 2 plus 0 is 2. Then dividing to 1 is going to be 2 euro. And then you're gonna add this for the 3. Sorry, 2 plus 1 is 3 euro because the first one is not there isn't because not given. And 2 plus 1 is 3 euro. 3 euro is divided to the 1 is 3 euro, and then the third one, second one, you're gonna collect 2 plus 1.80 is 3.80 divided to, then you're gonna get 1.90. It goes like this, okay? And the marginal cost, I have done this many times. This is then the delta total cost, which means you're gonna get the delta cost is the total cost. 3 minus 80 minus 3 is 80. 80 divided to 1 is 0.80. And for the second one, 4 minus 40 minus 3.80 is going to be 1.20 is going to be divided 2. Then it's going to be 0.6. It goes like this, as I have done many times. Is it clear? Delta total cost dividing to delta Q.
Yes, sir. Now I got it. Yes, yes.
Okay, good. And the total cost curve is represented, as I said to you, with the fixed cost and the variable cost. And the marginal cost is a U shape always, and the U shape will be intersect the marginal cost. The total cost is always intersected by the marginal cost at the minimum points. And as you are observing here, the marginal cost always intersecting the total cost, average total cost from the minimum points, and average variable cost either. You see here, these are the illustration of the graphical explanation of these graphics and the curves. You have to know that the marginal cost always intersect the average total cost at minimum, and average variable cost is also. And fixed cost is always somehow parallel, because fixed cost is usually 1 unit or 2 units or 5 units, something like this. And here it is represented differently, but usually it is a unique. But here is somehow it's started 2 and goes somehow to 0.13. But as you see, it becomes a unique distribution, and a fixed cost is always somehow a parallel line, is represented always with the parallel line to the x-axis. And here the average total cost in short run is represented, and average total cost in the medium run is represented, and this is then the average total cost in the large factory. Then the short run, as you are observing, small factory, medium factory, and large factory is enlarging and increasing the economical aspect. And as you are observing, this is then the red line representing the average total cost in the long run, which is a collection of these small, medium, and large factories' average total cost. And this is always realized in this direction. Average total cost in the short run, small, average total cost in the medium, and average total in the large. And this is then representing the economies of scale, as I said to you, as much as you are reducing the number of, as much as you are enlarging the number of production, you are reducing the cost of production. And as you are observing here, it becomes somewhere else reduced, but not minimum is somewhere else, but not coming to the zero. It's somewhere else, let's say €2, and stay intact and goes like this for a long period of time. When the economies of scale is subjected, means you are enlarging your production capacity and reducing your cost and bringing the market somehow cheaper production. And with these cheap products, you are enjoying to collect some reasonable minimum profit, but this minimum profit will give you more advantages to collect more profit. Because let's say you are producing 10 unit, let's say chair, plastic chair for $10, and multiplying it with 10 is making 100. But if you are producing 1,000 unit and making it $5, you are collecting $500, and this is then indicates with this production capacity you are able to enlarge and increase your production. If you are having $10 and 10 let's say plastic chair, it makes $100. But if you are bringing the market with enlargement of this production to the 100 unit and you are selling it for $5, then this will make $500, and this $500 probably bringing you some $200, maybe 250 more profit, because you are enlarging the production capacity and bringing the market to the better position with this enlarged economical, let's say, market and capacity. And this is then creating more, let's say, profit to the economy. This is realized in the, let's say, global market. Most of the Chinese producers, the Chinese, let's say, multinational companies, using these advantages because they are producing 1,000 units, 10,000 units per day and distributing with cheaper prices. That's the reason Mr. Proud and some other, let's say, franchising companies selling cheaper products with reasonable cheaper prices, because they are having too much product with lower prices, but they are having still some profit, which is enlarging and increasing the market results of this economies of scale, which is enlarge and increase the market structure and capacity. I hope you are understanding what I am talking about to you. This medium and short run with small factory is higher prices, but as you are observing, by the time when you are enlarging and increasing this factory and the company's profile, the price is reduced from 12,000 to 10,000, the total cost. And this is then creating more spaces for collecting profit, because probably the price will be 14,000 or 15,000, and the profit rate becomes some 5,000. And if you are insisting to produce with this smaller factory, your profit rate will be between $2,000 or $3,000. But if you are enlarging the factory and the capacity, the profit will be also increased, and then bringing you better off. As you see, quantity per day cars is enlarged in the medium from 1,000 to 1,200, and this is then good for the economy because it is bringing the economy to the better position. But the price probably shifted to the higher level if it is stay in this medium. But if it is enlarged to the large, then it is stay intact, and the 10,000 average cost is maintained, and this the profit create better off for the all parties. This is then the constant returns of scale, as I mentioned to you, because of the economies of scale is reducing the market and then stay intact for a period of time until this large factory and the company full up with this market and the products for covering the needs of the consumers. And then this becomes this economies of scale, then this profit then will becomes again turn off to the opposite, and then it is going up again. Therefore, we have to maintain the sustainable market structure for maintaining this reasonable profit with this economies of scale structure and profile. Somebody is calling me, I think. Yes, you want to talk to me, I think. We have finished almost. This was the class for today. If you have any question, let me know. If you don't, then I will finish the class for today.
Sir, can you please explain the three types of scale again? Economic of scale, constant return to scale, and this economies of scale.
Economies of scale means simply you are enlarging the capacity, the production capacity, and reducing the cost of production. And when you are doing this, this will bring you better off. This will bring you more profit. Therefore, economies of scale is somehow the China bazaar is the best simple example, where there are too much production. 1,000 units of product is produced per day, and the price is $1, $2, not $10. But with $1,000, you are having $2,000 as a total revenue, and the probably $1,000 is the profit. The rest of the is cost. But in the small factories where you are producing 10 units per day, you are probably having 10 units and $10 per units, and this is then giving you some $200 or $100. And this is not good for the economy, because large firms and large companies becoming better off when they are enlarging and increasing their production capacity. Therefore, economies of scale is dependent to this enlargement of the production operation capacity and reducing the market price, and probably bringing smaller profit but higher capacity in the large market and large scale. Profit will comes to you in the economies of scale. And this is then the constant returns of scale, because after bringing the market to this level, to 10,000 for example, then this constant returns stay intact for a long period of time until you are reaching to the optimum position, until you are full up with this capacity usage and the production operation process. And then this economies of scale will not come any more profitable, and this becomes to the diseconomies of scale, which means the prices and the cost of this production will turn again to the higher level. This is then the reason some Chinese firms exercising problems and increasing their prices and trying to reduce their economies, because constant returns to scale cannot be maintained for a long period of time, because after a period of time, when the market is full up with this, then the return and the profit is not available anymore at that level, then this will turn to diseconomies of scale. In the next lecture, I will give you more comprehensive explanation about this topic, and I can give you some more reasonable example also. And we are going with this production, and I have also some other market structure, some monopoly. If we are able to calculate this on the graphic and on the estimations, we will try to manage as much as we can. If you have any, I'm going to the competitive markets and the oligopoly, monopoly structure to give you some feedback about this monopoly, the one single producer and monopoly single consumer market structure, how it is affecting and changing the economy. But for today, I think this is enough for you. If you don't understand anything, you just contact me. I can reply you via email, or I can come online again and explain you again the topics or the parts that you didn't understand. Or you can watch this on the YouTube. I am putting these videos online also, because after the class, if it is, you can stop and listen again and to understand because we are going a little bit faster. And if you want to get some notes, you can get some notes also with these videos, which is on the YouTube, Ergin Fikri Akalpler. Then you can stop, then repeat again this parts of the this PowerPoints or presentations which you are having some problems. Or you can contact me. I can come to online. You communicate with me YouTube, then I can contact you either YouTube also to explain to you anything if you don't understand perfectly. Okay.
Okay, sir.
If you don't have
Alright,
any
sir.
question, then I'm going to finish this class for today, and then see you next week. Have a nice weekend.
But the slides has not finished.
What was it?
Okay.
You tell me you didn't understand anything.
No, it's okay.